So when I was 7 years old, I'm waiting for my mom to get home, right? So I see my mom pulling up at the house. I start running to the door. I'm super excited to see her. And as she's opening up the door, I see like this look of shock on her face. Like, I don't know what's about to happen. I'm looking at her, and then I look to the right side of her, and she has like a gun pointed at her head, just like this. I'm just like, what? And I see this man. I've never seen this man before. I don't know if he's about to kill my mom in front of me. I didn't know if he was about to try to kill me. Next thing I know, I hear this guy say, "Diti ka so kushatea," which means tell the boy to get on the floor in Creole. And mom repeats it back to me in English. She says, "Michel," he says, "get on the floor." And I'm scared, like I'm on the balls of my feet. I don't know what's about to happen. I lay down. More people start coming in with guns. They start pulling out my sisters. My uncle was visiting from Haiti. My grandmother, all laid on the floor. And they start searching the house. And they end up running out with a shoebox full of money. So come to find out, there's a shoebox full of money because my dad, he didn't want to pay taxes.
So basically, like, you don't own any properties, right?
Nah.
How would that work? Like, you not owning any properties, finding places where you could rent out or put on Airbnb or VRBO.
So our approach is, hey, we'll rent the property under our business name. We'll do a corporate lease. What basically is a lease where we get a leased out under our LLC name. And the way that we find these properties is basically we'll go to Zillow, apartments.com. We'll work with real estate agents that'll go out there and find these landlords that'll allow us to do Airbnb.
Like, people love to travel, right? People are always doing travel. So what I recommend and what I tell people is that you want to find some way to be able to do something business related. Let's say you wanted to go ahead and go to Orlando, right? You want to take the family out to Disney World. One of the things you can do is...
All right, guys. So before we jump into the episode, just want to make a big announcement. We just launched a Motion and Success community, guys. So in this community, we're going to be giving you the game on content. Basically, how to grow your profile from 0 to 100K in under a year, as well as how to make money online, getting leads for your business, more customers, more money.
Also, for the Motion and Success podcast, one of the things that I realized, we're attracting a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, and people that are just starting up their business and they're looking to start growing their business and scaling. One of the key factors to growing a business is by borrowing capital. So now when you're going out to certain banks, there's certain things that you need to do to be able to get funding for your business, to be able to start, grow, and scale what you got going on and take things to the moon. So if you're looking to go out and start growing and scaling your business like a lot of our guests has been doing, I'm going to teach you how to go out and get access to capital, access to credit cards, lines of credit, loans, things of that nature. So that way you can start growing your business. Sometimes you might just need an extra 50,000. Sometimes it might be 100,000. But listen, check us out inside the community. Go ahead and click the link down below and book a call with us. And I'm going to see you guys inside the community. Enjoy the rest of the episode. All right, y'all. So welcome back to another episode of Motion and Success. Listen, guys, my name is Cody Brown. And I got my co-host with me today.
It's Ayo, and yeah, we back with another great episode, bro. Y'all already know we bring really knowledgeable experts in the field, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. So today we got two special guests. Like, this one's gonna be crazy, y'all, because we got Eugene, the Airbnb expert, and we also got Michel. Money making bitch. Yep. So he gonna teach y'all the tax strategies y'all need to know to really save money in 2025. So this is one that y'all don't want to miss.
Absolutely. So listen, guys, if you're looking to go ahead and get started in the Airbnb game, this is going to be the episode that you need to stay to at the end. Listen, if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, everybody knows one of the most important things is saving money on taxes. Because now when you're making money, you also got to remember somebody else got to take their cut as well. And that's unfortunately the IRS. But if you stay tuned in this episode, you'll definitely learn some strategies on how you'll be able to save some money on taxes. So listen, guys, let's go ahead and get started with the episode. Fellas, introduce yourself, tell the people who you are, and we can get started from there.
1000%. So my name is Eugene, born and raised in Miami, Florida, but right now I live in Tampa. So Tampa pays me right now. Right now I've been an entrepreneur for about 15 years now. And right now we're currently in the short-term rental Airbnb space. Been doing that about going on 5 years right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. How about you, bro?
Oh man, Michel Vibroon, aka Money Making Mitch, certified public accountant, tax strategist, award-winning author, and yeah, tax strategist helping entrepreneurs, business owners, people with money, people who are just even without the money being able to understand how to win the game of taxes.
Okay, what was the book that you wrote?
So I got a couple of books I got. So I got Prolific Profit, How Successful Businesses Maximize Profits and Dominate the Market, inspired by the late and great Nipsey Hussle. And I also got 10 Tax Commandments as well. So it's another book I wrote helping entrepreneurs understand, the game of taxes.
Okay. All right, cool. So you can get started, bro. Yeah, so I definitely want to, I want to get into y'all backstories, because I know, especially jumping into the field of entrepreneurship, that's not an easy decision to make. Because especially if you don't come from an entrepreneurship background. So definitely want to know, like, how did y'all jump into that field of becoming entrepreneurs or even becoming a CPA? Like, what got y'all into wanting to chase after those things?
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah, so for me, I would say what motivated me was my environment. You know, I didn't come from money. Growing up in Miami, Florida, inner cities of Miami, family lived on welfare. My mom died at 9 years old. You know what I'm saying? So statistically, men my age leaving Miami, either you dead, right, or you in jail past 21 years old. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't want that. So I ended up going to college thinking that was going to be the way out. You know, once you get a degree, you get a job. That's American dream, right? Come to find out, it's the American nightmare. I'm overworked. I'm overworked, underpaid. You know what I'm saying? It didn't make sense. But one of my reasons why I went to school, being Haitian, you already know, the Haitian household, they're going to tell you what, go to school, go to college. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Go get a job, get a degree, right? So I did that because, make my pops happy. But I didn't really want to go to school. I really wanted to get a career to make money to help my family out, live the American dream. So, once I did that first year after graduating, I'm like, nah, man, I got scammed. You know what I'm saying? Like it ain't making no sense. So I thought about entrepreneurship. And the reason why I got started entrepreneurship is because I wanted freedom. You know what I'm saying? And I thought to myself, you know what? If I'm doing 80% of what America's doing, getting a job, living paycheck to paycheck, I'm going to have the same thing they have. But when I started looking around other entrepreneurs and business owners that's successful, and not just successful with money, but they got the time freedom, that's what I wanted. So that's what kind of motivated me to get started in business. And I said, no, we're going to go all in. If it works, it works. If it don't, I have my degree to fall back on. And we just went all in business. And from there, we just took off.
Wow.
Crazy.
So you basically, like, you got the security from, getting your degree and things like that. But you still said that that's not enough, that you want to go out and pursue something more.
Yeah.
And being in Miami, though, like, isn't it motivating though? Like, you seeing foreign whips, you seeing all of this stuff.
Yeah. But back when I was growing up, like I grew up in an area, man, was kind of rough, bro. Like I ain't gonna lie to you, like people getting shot, like it was just crazy. It was a rough area, you know what I'm saying? And people just scamming, not doing the right thing. So I didn't want to be in that toxic environment. You feel me? I say, you know what? Like I'm gonna use this environment to push me to level up. So Miami is a great place to go. I still visit because I live in Tampa now. I still got my family that's down there as well, but at that time, it wasn't something I felt like it was going to help me. I felt like we're probably going to get caught up in something that's bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I left, I cut a lot of my friends off. Wow. And I think that's one of the things, like, if you're watching this, sometimes for you to elevate, you got to let people go. Wow. Right? Cut off distractions. So I had to cut off all my friends, all my homeboys, because they wasn't doing nothing good. All they want to do was just hang out, party. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like, I'm trying to, like, really level up. So, that's why I kind of left.
That's what's up. And what about you, Michel?
Man, so for me, I knew I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew I always wanted to be successful. My parents, similar story, man. My parents actually came from Haiti to the United States to give my family and I the opportunity to be able to live the American dream. And through that experience, I had some interesting things that happened. So when I was 7 years old, I'm waiting for my mom to get home, right? And I'm a mama's boy. I'm gonna be real, all right? So I'm a mama's boy. So I see my mom pulling up at the house. I start running to the door. I'm super excited to see her. And as she's opening up the door, I see like this look of shock on her face. Like, I don't know what's about to happen. And I'm looking at her, and then I look to the right side of her, and she has like a gun pointed at her head, just like this. I'm just like, what? And I see this man. I've never seen this man before. I don't know if he's about to kill my mom in front of me. I didn't know if he was about to try to kill me. Next thing I know, I hear this guy say, "Diti ka so kushatea," which means tell the boy to get on the floor in Creole. Mom repeats it back to me in English. She says, "Michel," he says, "get on the floor." And I'm scared, like I'm on the balls of my feet. I don't know what's about to happen. I lay down. More people start coming in with guns. They start pulling out my sisters. My uncle was visiting from Haiti. My grandmother, all laid on the floor. And they start searching the house. And they end up running out with a shoebox full of money. So come to find out, there's a shoebox full of money because my dad, he didn't want to pay taxes. All right, so he was doing what's called tax evasion. So he ended up getting arrested because of that. He got kicked out the country because of that. So it taught me a really valuable lesson. I realized that people were willing to lie, steal, and shield to be able to get money. I was like, hey, whenever I figure out this money thing, I want to make sure I do so legally and ethically, right, and figure out the right way to do it. So that's kind of been my whole stance of really inspire me to like find the right ways to be able to get it and then also give it back to the people. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because especially in our community, a lot of people don't know that legal tax exists, to save money, but I still see the shoebox money till today.
Right.
Still happening, you know what I mean? So it's crazy to see that people are still doing it, but I mean, that's why we got you here, man. So
right. And that's why, and the reason why is like there's so much confusion about the tax code. And if you look at it, like the tax code is like over 74,000 pages. So if you print out the whole tax code, it's like the size of a 2-story building. But what they don't tell you is that 95% of the tax code is actually showing you how to be able to legally and ethically avoid paying taxes. Only 5% is actually showing you what you got to pay taxes on. Everything else is telling you what to be able to do to be able to avoid it. So oftentimes, people tend to focus on the lack, but you really need to focus on abundance, right? And focusing on that side of the tax code. And society tells us there's 2 different tax systems. You probably heard of this, right? There's one for the poor, one for the rich, one for the poor, one for the wealthy. But the way I see it is like there is 2 different tax systems, but there's one for the informed and one for the ignorant. Hold on. I know you guys are getting crazy game right now, but if you don't listen up, you could literally lose over $50,000 this year.
And this is why we're going to be doing a free workshop teaching you how to get passive income with Airbnb. So I'm going to show you how to get the bag, and Michelle going to teach you how to keep the bag.
Listen, y'all, it's not how much you earn, it's how much you keep. And the more you're able to keep, the more you're able to go ahead and build generational wealth to be able to do the same for yourself and your family. So make sure you go ahead and tap in with us. We're hosting an absolutely free workshop to show you how to be able to build passive income and be able to live tax-free. So make sure you guys will go ahead and tap in. Make sure you guys go ahead and check us out at passiveincomeblueprintclass.com. That's passiveincomeblueprintclass.com. Don't meet us there, beat us there. I'll see you there. So if you could be informed about the tax code, then you could be able to win the game of taxes. And the tax code is really an incentive. It's like a blueprint, literally, to be able to build wealth. You know what I'm saying? So like it actually shows you if you do the things that's going to make you wealthy, you could actually be able to save more money on taxes, like getting into entrepreneurship, being an investor. So all those different things. I can go, I can talk about it. I go crazy on this, but yeah.
Nah, that's what's up. That's what's up. And I definitely got to shout out the Zoes because I mean, y'all really stick together. Like I'm hearing both of y'all backstory. I mean, it's a lot of Haitians out here in New York, and I see the same thing. Like y'all all support each other, y'all stick together, and now like y'all out here giving game together. So how did y'all come together and decide like, we gon' go out and give this game out, help people get some money, help people save some money? Like how'd y'all team up?
Yeah, 1,000%. So, we both was in the same mastermind, with Myron Golden. So we both in the same mastermind mentorship program. You both connected, hit it off. And, obviously I'm doing Airbnb, teaching people how to make money, and he's teaching people how to save money. We both had the same mission of making an impact. So what better way to teach people how to get the bag, and now he can show them how to save the bag. So we kind of talked and like, you know what, let's come together and collab and give this game and help the people. You know what I'm saying? And that's why we kind of partnered up together.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Nah, that's good to know. So I know a lot of y'all probably trying to figure out like how we gonna put all this game in one episode, but we gonna make it happen. We gonna make it happen.
2-part. I don't know.
we gonna make it happen, but definitely want to jump straight into it. We can start off with the Airbnb side. So Airbnb, it's a lot of people that they're making a killing with it, nowadays, and you're definitely one of the people I've seen on social media that's in the field and that's really making money in it. So just tell me a little bit about what you do in the Airbnb field.
Yeah, 1,000%. So for me, when it comes to Airbnb, and one of the reasons why I started obviously is to make money, but one of the reasons why I got started in Airbnb so I could get quicker cash flow, right? End of the day, everyone want to make money. And, me and my wife tapped into traditional route of doing real estate. We'll get in a property, we rent it out to a family, whatever the case may be, we collect rent once a month. By the 5th of the month, we get paid. After we pay the mortgage, you probably walk away with $300 in profit. But when it comes to Airbnb, you could charge a premium price, you could charge a nightly price, and you could walk away anywhere between $1,500 to $2,000 in profit off of one property. So it just made more sense. So we dived into it in 21. And the way we got started, because a lot of times people don't get started in Airbnb because they think that you have to buy the property, you got to own it. It's going to cost you a lot of money. Like regular real estate, you got to get a mortgage, fix and flips. It's none of that. Once I find out where you could do rental arbitrage, well, basically you rent a property under your business name. You have permission from the landlord to rent it out. And then now all you got to do is furnish it, sublease it out, put it on Airbnb. And the industry itself is called short-term rental. So it's not just Airbnb, but you can list a property on multiple platforms, Verbo, Booking.com. You have multiple people staying in your property. So right now, let's say Beyonce, I think she's going on tour, right? Yeah. So the Texas, whatever it is, right? She's going on tour. So just imagine where she comes to the city. Let's say she comes to New York What do you think hotels going to do with their prices? Is the price going to go up or down? They're going to raise the prices. Like, hold up, Beehive coming in town. The Beehive fans coming into the city. We're going to raise the prices. So they're going to raise the prices. So that's the same thing we could do with Airbnb units. We could charge a nightly rate. So let's say we're charging $200 a night, and it's a big concert because Beyonce coming in town. We could charge now, instead of doing $200 a night, we could charge $500 a night. Now let's say someone's staying with us for 10 nights at $500. That's $5,000 you can make in 10 nights, in 10 days. And it happens all the time, right? Because you have events that go on all the time. You have people that need a place to stay, travel nurses. So that's what kind of got me starting Airbnb. And that's what we've been able to do and teach other people how to do as well, too.
So basically, like, you don't own any properties, right?
Nah.
Okay, so how would that work? Like, you know, you not owning any properties, like finding places where you could, you know, rent out or put on Airbnb or VRBO.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah, so, you know, what we do, the approach is, we always like to do, for me, I like to make stuff a win-win situation. So, you know, we work with landlords who want to rent out their property that's motivated, because sometimes they may not be able to lease it out to a regular tenant that may not have the funds to afford to pay the rent. Maybe not make the income to pay the rent. So our approach is, hey, we'll rent the property under our business name. We'll do a corporate lease. Well, basically is a lease where we get it leased out under our LLC name. And the way that we find these properties is basically we'll go to Zillow. We'll go to Zillow, apartments.com. We'll work with real estate agents that'll go out there and find these landlords that'll allow us to do Airbnb. And then the other thing that we do before we get to Airbnb is look at the numbers. Because a lot of times people just like, all right, well, this person tell me, yes, I could do Airbnb. But the question is, can I make money? Because we're not trying to run a nonprofit organization. Like, we're trying to get paid. Right. You know what I'm saying? So what we do is we run our analytics. So we go to AirDNA, we go to B&B Calc, and based on the address of that property, let's say we type in the address over here in B&B Calc or AirDNA, it will let us know what is the potential revenue we can make, what is the average daily rate you could charge, whether it's $300 a night, $400 a night, and then what is the occupancy rate. It'll give you all those numbers. And typically, we like to be at, on a property, anywhere between $50,000 and above in revenue. We like to be at 50% and above in occupancy rate, which is very important. So if you're watching this, write this down. And then we like to be out on average anywhere between, I'll say, 150 upwards to like $350, $500 a night on an average daily rate to ADR. So if it check off all those boxes, then it's a good property that we'll decide to move on, negotiate, see if we can get a 12-month lease from that landlord, furnish it, list it on Airbnb on the platforms, let people book it, and we get paid. And the great thing about this model is when people start booking it and you're getting paid out, that money's going to cover the rent. And all you're doing after you pay the rent, everything else is straight profit. And all-in cost is cheap because you got low risk, because all the landlords typically want is first month, last month, sometimes security deposit. So sometimes your all-in cost will be anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000 to get into the game. Now you're tapped into real estate, doing it the new way. Because typically with real estate, most people got to spend $100,000 if it's going to be a fix and flip and repairs, rehab. Most people don't got $100K. They may not have the credit, right? But someone could come up with 10, 15K to get into the game, or they could leverage funding, which we teach how to use that to get into the game. So that's typically how we get started when it comes to Airbnb.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Cody got a question, but so how do you, especially when it comes to the Airbnb side, how do you, because a lot of people, they look at it nowadays, I'm gonna be honest, they you know, it's been a lot of restrictions that have been placed on it. So a lot of people it was a ton of people doing it during COVID. Yeah. But the real people that's really making money and it stayed in it, and y'all still making money, you know, right now. So how do you go about finding Airbnb friendly, you know, apartment buildings or, you know, spaces where, you know, you can rent out? Because the numbers is probably like, it's probably one of those things like, if you know, you know. It's 100%. Not, you know, it's not just you walk up to an apartment and just, hey, I'm going to speak to the landlord and get an Airbnb.
Yeah, 100%.
Hey, family, just a big announcement I wanted to share with you guys. We just launched the Motion and Success community. So listen, a lot of times, a lot of you guys are struggling online to grow your social media platform. You're considered the best kept secret. Literally, no one knows you. You got a business, but if your business is not online, you're literally a secret. We're going to be showing you guys how to grow from 0 to 100K online organically. If we did it, you guys can definitely do it too. We had influencers like Queen Latifah, Rick Ross, Usain Bolt, and many others liking our content, and this was all done organically. If you want to know those specific strategies on how you can take your brand and your business to the next level and start putting more money in your pocket, getting more leads for your business, getting more clients, and taking yourself to the next level of entrepreneurship. Comment the word motion down below and let's start creating you some motion and definitely some success, but more importantly, some leads that convert into dollars.
So you touched on something that's important. And one thing I learned from my mentor is time will either promote you or expose you, right? So time will either promote you and show who you really are, or expose you and show, you know what, you're not really built for this game. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people left the Airbnb game after COVID because they wasn't really running it as a professional business. Because you got to think about the NBA playoffs. You got professional playing basketball. I can't play basketball. I'm horrible at basketball. Horrible. But I can make money, right? Because I'm a professional entrepreneur. So that's the same thing when it comes to Airbnb. You got to decide, you know what, if I want to do this professionally to make professional money, or I'm doing this as an amateur to make amateur money. So what we do is we look at all the data points, and then also what we do is use these systems to find these properties. So let's say we want to find a property that allows us to do Airbnb. We go to B&B Calc. What that also would do is it will give us the city requirements, if it require a license to get, or they don't allow Airbnb in that city. So right now, South Carolina, Middle Beach, they don't allow Airbnb no more. So I know, okay, well, someone's saying I could do Airbnb in South Carolina, Middle Beach. I can't do it there because guess what? The city say they're not allowing Airbnb. So I'm gonna do my due diligence because guess what? I'm running this as a professional business. And then the other way that we find properties that allow us to do Airbnb is that, let's say we go to Airbnb.com friendly apartments. What that would do then is Airbnb partner with some apartments that allow you to do Airbnb legally. Because back in the day when people started Airbnb, they was doing it behind scenes. They were leasing it under their personal name. You know what I'm saying? Leasing it under their personal name, put furniture in there, and then they got caught. They got kicked out. They told the guests, don't go to the leasing office. Go straight here, pick up the key outside under this rock. You know what I'm saying? Right? And then they got caught, they got kicked out. Right? So, you know, it's a good business because now apartments like, you know what, well, if the tenant can pay us rent, well, you know what, why not we partnering with the tenant? We'll let you do Airbnb so that way you can come up with the money to pay us. So apartments start doing this, they start partnering with Airbnb. Now it's a win on both sides. It's a win for Airbnb because now they got more people that could do Airbnb. It's a win for the apartments because they could get paid, and it's a win for the person doing Airbnb because they make money, right? So win-win. So that's one site that we use to find apartments that allows us to do Airbnb. The cities, Airbnb.com/Airbnb friendly apartments. Now we can find apartments that allow us to do it, and we won't have to be doing it, you know, illegally behind the closed doors.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, truly, because a lot of times you didn't hear people like, you gotta hide, go find this lockbox, right? Put this number in. Next thing you know, you gotta go in. Then you bring your luggage in at one point. It's kind of crazy, you know what I mean, for a vacation that you're actually paying for. So, you know, you got to go through the back door. It's really crazy. So now I want to tie it in together with the two of you guys. So now we understand how to find the property, you know, using AirDNA. And what's the other one you said?
B&B Calc.
B&B Calc. So now when it comes to like a city and state, as far as like a tax-friendly state, you know, if you wanted to find your first property in city, what's some of the states that are, you know, tax-friendly for a business owner and an investor, would you say?
Yeah, so it really depends because if we're trying to just off the top, if we're talking about like states that don't have any state tax, you got places like Florida, you got places like Texas, which is really popular. A lot of people moving to Texas, Alaska, Wyoming, New Hampshire. You got Tennessee. That gives you some tax benefits as well. So it really depends on. I wouldn't want you to just pick a state just based on saving state taxes, because what the states also do is they find other ways to be able to tax you, right? So for instance, they may try to increase the sales tax. They might try to increase the property tax. So I would say from a tax perspective, if your goal is to try to make more money, which I believe it should be if you're going to get into short-term rentals or Airbnb, then you want to look at what's going to be the best market for that Airbnb, what's going to be able to produce the most traffic. But some of those bigger states that I mentioned, like the Texas, the Florida, are always going to be hot spots because there's always something going on in those locations. And Nevada is another one as well.
Okay. All right, cool. And then like when it comes to like, you know, starting up the Airbnb, because you know, people are more than likely gonna start incurring like costs, buying furniture, things of that nature. What's some of the ways that people like what's some of the strategy that people are probably missing out on every single time when it comes to starting up a new business or even their first Airbnb property?
Yeah, for sure. So when it comes to those different expenses, so when it comes to the tax code, going back to the tax code, so the tax code favors entrepreneurs and business owners. Yeah. And the reason why is because the government they created an incentive system. So, and they understand that as a business owner, for every person that you hire, you're employing people. So every person that you hire, that's one less person that's to go on unemployment. For any person that you put into a property, if you are an investor in real estate, that's one less person has to be in public housing. For every dollar that you put into the stock market, that's one less dollar that the government has to put into the stock market and put into business. So you're helping the government do what they need to do, right? So that's number one. But even if you're a W-2 employee, you could still be able to have a business on the side. So a lot of people feel like when they think about business, they think about corporations, they think about the Facebooks and the Walmarts and all these different things. But really, by the definition when it comes to the IRS, as far as business is concerned, essentially needs to be in the pursuit of profit, meaning that you're trying to make money, you are working towards having money. So even if you're not profitable yet, you could still be able to start that business. And for a lot of people, there's things that you're already doing on the side. So whatever your 9 to 5 is willing to pay you, you could be able to get paid on that with your 5 to 9. So because generally speaking, if someone's going to pay you 100,000, you're probably worth at least $1 million, at least 10x, right? So you could be able to at least start doing that on the side, and that's what's going to open you up to being able to start writing things off on taxes. So when it comes to being able to write off things on taxes, the IRS actually has 4 requirements. Okay, so I call these tax free. So if you want to find a way to remember, it's based off section 162 of the tax code. So tax free, I say tax free is the way to be. So FREE. So the first part of that, it needs to be considered for your trade, business, or profession. So we already talked about that. You got to have a business in order to be able to do it. Okay, and I'll say this, another thing too, a lot of people miss out on is that when they work with different people, they tell them, hey, my business did not make any money. And they feel like because their business didn't make any money and revenue yet, they don't file their business taxes.
How important is that though? Like,
it's $10, $20, $100,000. Like it costs you a lot of money. One because you want to be reporting all your income and all your expenses. That's number one. That's a requirement. But then number two is, let's say you made $10 in your business, right? But you have let's say you have $1,000 worth of expenses. I'm just keeping it really simple. So $0, $1,000 worth of expenses. Okay. So now that business 0 minus 1,000, that's a $1,000 loss. All right. So now that $1,000 loss can then be applied to your W-2 income. It can be applied to your other income. So now it reduces your taxable income. So let's say with $1,000, let's say your tax rate is 30%. In that situation, that's like $300 that you're just pretty much throwing away because you're not claiming those losses and you're not claiming those deductions on your taxes. And people don't even realize. I literally talked to a client the other day and she said, yeah, my CPA told me I didn't make any money, so I don't need to file my business tax. I'm like, you're crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. I was like, yeah, someone has to go. Someone has to go. So yeah, that's the first part, the free, FREE. So we're on F. So it has to be for your business. The next thing is R, it needs to be considered regular for your business. The IRS calls that ordinary. So what's ordinary for your business is going to be different depending on the type of business that you're in, right? So one of my good friends, she owns an ice cream shop. So she could write off ice cream cones and napkins, refrigerators, spoons, all these different things. That's not ordinary for a CPA, right? That's not ordinary for an accounting business. So it needs to make sense for your business. So it has to be considered ordinary. The IRS calls that ordinary. The next thing is it needs to be considered essential for your business. So the IRS calls that necessary. So what's going to be necessary in order for you to operate your business is going to be rent, hiring employees, software, investing in legal professional services, education is going to be essential for you to be able to grow and scale your business. And then last but not least, economical. The IRS calls that not lavish or extravagant under the circumstances. So what does that mean? So depending on how much money you're making, it's going to pretty much determine what you could write off for real, right? So for instance, in 2020, 50 Cent, right? We all know 50 Cent, multi-millionaire. 50 Cent had a big tax bill at the end of the year. So what did he do? He bought like 6 G-Wagons, all right? In 2020, he's like, yo, I'm gonna just go ahead, because back in 2020, you could write off 100% of the vehicle if it weighs over 6,000 pounds, right? So he's able to get a tax write-off. So maybe you might not be a multimillionaire yet. Maybe you might not be able to write off that many vehicles yet, but you could still be able to write off the different vehicle expenses that you have. I'll talk more about that. Or like Grant Cardone, right? A big real estate mogul, same thing, right? At the end of the year, he ended up having a big tax bill, and back in 2020, he wrote off a private jet. right? Because he was able to show that he was using it for business purposes. He did it at the end of the year. So he had to, before the year was over, he actually had to fly the jet for business purposes to be able to show that it's being used for business. So, but as an entrepreneur, maybe you're just starting off, you can write off business travel. So that's another way. But getting into specifically for like Airbnb and short-term rentals and real estate, there's different things you can write off. So number one, the biggest thing when it comes to real estate is depreciation. All right, so depreciation is probably one of the best deductions because it's what's considered like a cashless deduction, meaning that you don't have to take money out your pocket. So for instance, when it comes to property, let's say you get a property that is worth $500,000, right? And it's a residential property. So you're able to get a tax deduction for that write-off based on what's called depreciation. So the government says, hey, it's raining on the property. It's going to have wear and tear. It's going to do all these different things. It's going to decrease in value. So if it's a residential, you're able to write off 27.5. You're able to write off that property over 27.5 years, right? Which comes out to like 18,000 per year, about 18,000 per year as a deduction that you take, even if it's not coming out your pocket. So let's say you have that property, right, and you're generating revenue. Let's say you make 18,000. Let's say you make 18,000 during the year. You have that depreciation deduction. Now you're able to have tax-free income because you're making money on paper. It's coming into your bank, but then you're also taking the deduction with it with the depreciation, right? And then there's another thing called cost segregation, which allows you, which is crazy, right? It allows you to be able to write off even more of that, right? So you could write off, if you do what's called a cost segregation study, where someone actually goes into the building and they look at the different furniture and the lightings and the fixtures, and they're able to write off even more in that first year. You could write off like 50,000, 100,000, just depending on that analysis, but that gives you an even bigger deduction. And that's how like a lot of wealthy people are able to pretty much pay no money in taxes because they're using that. So that's like the biggest thing. So I want to put that out there. But then getting to some other things you could do is, I talked about the vehicle, right? So there's different ways you could be able to write off vehicles. So there's the actual method and there's the standard mileage method. So the actual method allows you to be able to write off the actual expenses. So the first thing is, let's say you're leasing a vehicle. Like a lot of entrepreneurs lease vehicles is because with the lease payments, you're able to write off the actual lease payment based on the business use. So if you have a lease payment of $2,000 and you're using the vehicle at least 50% for business, so let's say you use it 50% for business, that $2,000 is not a $1,000 deduction that you're able to take off on your business, and you get a $1,000 tax write-off for something that you're already paying for, right? A lot of people already have vehicles, and that's one way to do it. Then with the actual method, let's say you're financing that vehicle, so you're able to go ahead and write off things like your gas, your maintenance, the car washes, titles, registration, all these different things to maintain that vehicle, and you're using it for business purposes, then you're going to be able to write those things off. And the IRS actually allows you, if it's over 6,000 pounds, it used to let you write off 100%. Each year it keeps decreasing by like 20%. So that's one of the things I tell people is like the sooner you understand how to save money on taxes, the more money you could be able to save, right? Because now it used to be 100%, now it's down to 40%. Right. So that's one of the things, like you have to be able to move with like a sense of speed and urgency. So vehicle is going to be a huge thing as well. And then when it comes to actual business use of that vehicle, so let's say you're going ahead and looking at your units, that's going to be considered a business miles. If you are also getting supplies, maybe going to the Home Depot, maybe going to IKEA, going to these different places, then that's going to be a business miles as well. If you're going to a conference, a seminar, that's going to be a business mile as well. So you want to make sure you're documenting that. I recommend people use Mile IQ. It's going to be a good app to track your miles. Mile IQ.
That's for
track your business miles, to track your miles in general.
Oh, for driving.
For driving. So when you start driving, it automatically is gonna pop. It's gonna start recording the miles, and then you let it know. You swipe left, swipe right to let it know whether it's for business or whether it's for personal. So that's gonna be able to track it. Or you can use QuickBooks as well. QuickBooks has an app, and you're able to go ahead and track your miles that way. So that's gonna be with mileage. So that was the actual method, but then you also have the standard mileage method, which the IRS lets you write off 70 cents. So let's say you drive 10,000 miles for business during the year. That's going to be like a $7,000 tax write-off for you. So that's going to be vehicles, and then getting into like supplies and equipment. So if you're going to furnish your unit, you're going to get the toilet paper, you're going to get the towels, you're going to get the furniture, artwork, the TV, all these different things are going to be tax write-offs that you could be able to use now with the Airbnb. Another thing with that is also traveling as well. So business travel is huge. What a lot of people don't realize is like, and these are things that you're already spending money on. That's the crazy thing. Like, so for instance, like a lot of people, like people love to travel, right? People are always doing travel. So what I recommend and what I tell people is that you want to find some way to be able to do something business related. So let's say you wanted to go ahead and go to Orlando, right? You want to take the family out to Disney World. You guys want to see Mickey Mouse and be able to go to Disney World. One of the things you can do is be able to, if you do something business related on that Friday and be able to do something business related on Monday, then you're able to write off that trip and it counts as a business travel. So this is the way to do it. So one thing that you want to do is you want to go ahead, you can maybe go on like eventbrite.com, you want to maybe go on meetup.com, you want to do research in that city, see what's going on that Friday. If you could do at least 4 hours of work on that Friday, then that's going to be considered a business day. You guys do what you need to do on the weekend.
Does it have to be 4 hours?
They want you to document it for 4 hours, and you have to you want to at least have the 4 hours to count as a full business day, because the purpose of that trip needs to be for business. If you just happen to go to Disney World on the weekend, then so be it. But you want to make sure it's for business purposes. So it does need to be, you want to at least show at least 4 hours that you're spending there, and then something on Monday. So maybe you're looking at more properties, more units to be able to invest in. Maybe you're meeting with your CPA. Maybe you're meeting with a real estate agent to find more properties and units to be able to do something.
What about company retreats? Does those count?
1,000%, yes. Now you're thinking, yeah. So if you go ahead and do a company retreat as well. So yeah, if you want to go ahead. So one thing I do, right, is every single year I have a mastermind. That mastermind just happens to fall on my birthday, right? It just happens to fall around my birthday, but it's a legitimate mastermind event that I host every year. It's open to the public. We sit down, we mastermind. I bring in big guest speakers. We all meet, we mastermind. We go ahead and typically we do it in the mansion. So we get the mansion, we get the decor, all those different things, and I'm feeding the people. So all those different things are going to be tax write-offs. So yes, like a company retreat, a mastermind, maybe you can have like a board meeting, for instance, where instead of just going on a family trip, maybe you guys are traveling. If your family members are in your business, which I recommend you can do that. If your family members are in your business, you could do what's called a board of directors meeting once a year. You all sit down, you guys plan, you guys go ahead and work on your numbers for the future, and that's another way for you to be able to do it. So the thing I tell people is, like, the tax code is law. So in order to change your tax, you need to change the facts. You need to change the facts of the situation and show that it's for business purposes. So those are going to be a couple of ways. And then the big thing when it comes to any business, which a lot of people don't talk about, is education. So education is huge too, but a lot of people don't realize that not all education can be written off. So they tell us to go to school, get good grades, go to college, right? But college tuition, you can't write that off. You can't write off college tuition. You can write off the student loan interest,
I mean,
but they cap that. But when you're investing, when you go ahead and get education as it relates to your business, then that becomes a tax write-off.
So what if you're in a scenario where you're a business owner and you're spending money on like you go to college and you become a business major, that won't consider?
Nah, bro.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now there's tax credits out there. There's like the American Opportunity Tax Credit, Lifetime Learning Tax Credits, but it's still not going to be as much as if, like, for instance, like we invested in Mastermind for $155,000, but we're able to write that off, one, because it's for our business, it's helping us be able to grow in our business. Plus, like I mentioned too, the amount of money that we're making in our business is not considered lavish or extravagant. So that's what we're able to do. But yeah, for college, no, they're not going to let you. You could write off the student loan interest, but they cap that off at like $1,500. So they limit how much you could write off. So that's the thing. Like I said, when the tax code, like I said, the tax code favors entrepreneurs and business owners, which is crazy, right? For people who are going to college, they're telling us to do this, but they don't really give you the tax benefits and incentives because, again, it just shows you what the government believes in. They believe that entrepreneurs and investors and business owners are going to be able to make the most money, right?
So now when it comes to, like, I want to tie this into the Airbnb, like,
Sure.
when it comes to the making money part, what's some of the ways that like you can always maximize and like stretch the dollar of like a guest is coming in?
Yeah, 1000%. So, a couple ways that you could do it. So basically, let's say someone's coming into your unit, you're charging them $300 a night, and they want to check in early. So what we do is, we will charge them early check-in fee, right? So let's say check-in time at a hotel is 3 p.m. and after, but sometimes they cannot let you check in. What we'll do is, all right, we'll let you check in a little bit early. We'll charge you extra $100, right? And then now, let's say the guest wants to check out late when it's time to check out. Checkout time is 11 a.m., just like a hotel. Now it's like, hey, I want to check out at 1 p.m. All right, well, it's going to be a late checkout fee, right? All right, it's going to be $100. So that's kind of like the ways we can make extra money within a booking that we have.
Right.
And the other thing that you could also do in Airbnb is provide concierge service. So one of the things that actually one of our mentees is going to do is that her brother, I think, is like a private chef. And then what she's going to do is add concierge service. So let's say someone's coming in town for a vacation. What you could do is, all right, provide concierge. Hey, if you need private chef cooking, right, private food cooked for you. Now that's another way you can make extra money, right? Charging them a fee for serving the food and catering the food in the unit. So many ways you can make extra money within the unit with the early check-ins, the late checkout fees. And then also another thing too, sometimes it's, I always say this, it's always, when something negative happens, there's always a positive side and upside to it, right? Think about, like, there's two sides to everything. You got hot, cold water, two sides to loaf of bread, heads, tails, right? So when it comes to sometime with a reservation, sometimes we have guests that may damage the unit, right, by accident or maybe on purpose. They may, make a mess inside the unit. They don't follow the house rules. And we set house rules. Guess what? If you smoke in our unit, you're getting charged anywhere between $500 to $1,000 fee.
How could you prove somebody smoking? That's something.
All the time. People they sloppy. They'll leave like the weed wrapper there, residue there, and you see it. Like, all right, well, guess what? I got photos. You send that to Airbnb. You put a claim in. The guest will have 24 hours to whether accept the fee that you're charging them or decline it. If they decline it, then you have the air cover insurance that's going to cover it. Right? So you just got to provide the receipt, the cost of how much it costs you to get the unit in order. So typically what I have my cleaner do is like, hey, give me an invoice for how much, the fee that we're looking to get. Usually we do $500.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then that way, like, that's another way we could make extra money. You know what I'm saying? So that happens. So that's like kind of what we do to strategize and make extra money within a booking.
So one of the things that I but I feel like a lot of people say is like, before them getting into Airbnb, their biggest concern is parties. Somebody's gonna vandalize the unit. They just can't trust people coming into these units. Yeah. Like, for you, like, what's some of the things that you're seeing, that can be easily preventable, and be like, all right, cool. Don't think of it like this. You should be able to get covered, and you can still be able to operate Airbnb. Yeah.
So I would say proper preparation is key when you prepare for those things, right? Always, believe the best is going to happen, but expect the worst, right? So sometimes when I first got started, a lot of you, like, when I first got my first booking, I was scared, bro. Like, I'm like, yo, like, as soon as we listed it, 30 minutes later, we got someone that booked it. I'm like, yo, like, you know what I'm saying? This for real? Like, you know what I'm saying? So then it was like, all right, well, I'm going to meet this guest. I want to make sure they real. You know what I'm saying? They're legit. So we met the guest, and it was like two workers. They was there for traveling for an event for work. And I seen them brought in like multiple luggage bags. I'm like, oh, they trying to move in. Like, what's going on? They brought like 4 big luggages. I'm like, I just staying for 1-2 nights. Like, what's going on? So like, nah, we're here for work, and we try for work X, Y, and Z. So the whole time, like, man, hopefully don't damage nothing, whatever the case may be. They didn't damage anything. You know what I'm saying? But I was still like precautious. That makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Just in case anything happens. But sometimes you are going to have guests that try to do a party. What we do is prevent it is that we put in our rules, in our house rules, you cannot do a party. If you do a party, we find out, we'll kick you out, and you still get paid for the reservation if you kick them out. Also, we'll fine you as well too. So we put this all of our house rules. So that way guests see it and it's like, all right, well, I'm not going to try to do a party because guess what? You get fined. Another thing that we do to prevent it is that we put ring cameras. So we put ring cameras outside. And then also what you can do is put a noise level detector inside. You can't put no cameras inside the house, but you can put cameras outside the house to see how many guests is coming in. Because some guests will do is they'll put 2 guests on the reservation, and next minute they come in with 5-6 people. Like, hold on, bro. Like, you put 2 guests on the reservation. I'm looking on the ring camera. You got like 5-6 people, right? So they got to put down on the reservation how many guests they're bringing into the property, right? Yeah. So that's what we do to kind of prevent parties from happening. So we put ring cameras so people see that. It's like, all right. But sometimes people still do it. You know what I'm saying? They'll still, all right, well, we're just going to run the party, whatever, case like that. And then guess what? We have to like cancel it and kick them out. Right. Yeah. Sometimes try to do it on slide, maybe kind of put it behind the camera, and we had it happen recently where, you know, we have one of our units is a house. It's a house in Cape Coral, Florida. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, big private pool in the backyard. So people sometimes, all right, I'm going to do a get-together, birthday party, or whatever, cool. But not a crazy party, right? But they did a party, but it wasn't too crazy. They didn't damage nothing, but they left a whole bunch of trash, you know what I'm saying, in the back of the house. So it's like, all right, well, our cleaning team got there. It's like, yo, I think they did a party. We see all these balloons, all the trash in the back. So now what we do, we take pictures. And we send that in like, hey, well, you got to pay an extra cleaning fee because our team got to do extra cleaning because you guys left a whole bunch of trash. You had a big get together, or whatever the case may be. Again, if they don't accept it, then guess what? We send it to Airbnb and we get reimbursed. So sometimes it does happen, right? But when you put all those measures and, you know, things into place, it prevents it. Like we never had anyone, knock on wood, like do a crazy party because, again, we put all that into place. Like our team will ask them, hey, what are you coming into town for? You know what I'm saying? Because, again, we want to do due diligence to protect our business. So that's typically what we do to kind of prevent it. So if you're watching this and you're thinking about doing Airbnb, just get into the game. Like, don't get scared. Don't be scared. Just get into the game. Don't let, you know, certain stories hold you back. Like, it's one thing being I don't care what business you in, you're going to have issues that happen. Any business, could be e-com, tax business, you know, car rental business. You're going to have stuff that happens. It's part of the game. And one thing I learned is that, you know, when you have failures and things that happen, those lessons, those losses, it helps you, you know, become better. You know what I'm saying? It's like I said, you can't, you know, make millions without taking L's. Yeah. It's part of the game.
Facts. And one thing I do like about the Airbnb arbitrage space is like, because me personally, like when it comes to like my own car or my own apartment, I take those things a little bit personal. Like, I don't know if you ever seen the viral clip, the Chinese guy who walked in the Airbnb. Apparently it was his house. It was some kids throwing in a party. Maybe they used some fake IDs and got the space. Yeah. And then he ended up getting smacked like by one of the kids. And it was just like everybody in the comments was just like, damn, like, yo, that's wrong. But he got so attached to it because that's his house. You know, he had a lot of emotions connected with it. So I'm thinking too, I'm like, you know, if you're doing Airbnb arbitrage, it's like, it's not your property, you know, you don't got to take it as personal. You don't got to pull up or be like, you know, having all these cameras, secret cameras set up and things like that. So that's what I really like about the business model. One thing I did want to ask you though is it's a lot of moving parts to the Airbnb space. So you also have the furniture aspect. So would you recommend people spending a lot of money on furniture or like, you know, buying expensive furniture? Like like how could they furnish a 1-bedroom for under $1,000? Like how you save money on buying furniture?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know what I'm saying? And what I'll say to that question is it depends, right, on the type of unit. Just like you mentioned, it was a 1-bedroom. Like you don't have to go that crazy with it, and you can still be within a budget. You know, so one of the things that we do when we come to furnishing units, like we'll kind of set a budget for that unit. And we leverage funding, right? We leverage OPM, so we leverage the bank money, obviously, to get the furniture as well, too. So you have some places that'll do, some furniture places that'll do 90 days same as cash. You don't have to come out of pocket. They'll give you the furniture. You got 90 days to pay it off. You pay a small monthly fee. In 90 days, you can pay it off, right? And just use the profit you make from the Airbnb to pay off the furniture. But if it's a 1-bedroom, typically you could go to websites like Wayfair, right? You could go to OfferUp, Facebook Marketplace to find maybe secondhand furniture that's in good shape, luxury furniture, nice furniture. And be within a budget under $1,000. Typically, the most expensive thing that's going to cost is going to be the couch and the bed. The bed may be like $300-400. The couch may be like $300-400, and everything else is not that expensive. The TV nowadays you get brand new from the store for like $250. You know what I'm saying? A brand new TV, that's cheap. So typically be within a budget. So I tell people, like, when you first get into the game, don't go crazy in it, because I had a mentee, a student, before he got in touch with us and within our program, he was doing it on his own, and he went crazy with his furniture for only a 2-bedroom. He spent about $10,000. You know what I'm saying? So it was very difficult for him to see profit and break even because he spent too much money on furniture. He went to Ashley Furniture. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, yo, nah, you doing this business to make money. You know what I'm saying? Not to you're not living there, using it to make money. So you could be cost effective. So once he got in top with us, we got him a second unit, and then we got him furniture deals. So we got him a whole furniture set for a 2-bedroom, nice furniture, all for $2,500. You know what I'm saying? It was secondhand, but he got 3 TVs, a couch, a bed, two king size bed, all for $2,500. So within literally a month and a half, he was already out the black and already in the green, making money. You know what I'm saying? So it's just really just strategizing and creating a budget. Now, what I would say, if you have a bigger house and a bigger unit, obviously going to cost more money. So we have that 4-bedroom house I told you that's in Cape Coral, and we want the house. What do we want for it? We want it to look nice and luxury. We still didn't go over crazy within a budget. We're still even under 10K. Like we probably spent, I would say, probably 6K on the furniture because a 4-bedroom, private pool in the back, and we got everything on Wayfair and got it for a deal. You know what I'm saying? To make it look nice. But it was only 4 or 5K. So still, I mean, it was only 5, 6K. So still within a budget. So it's like, you don't have to go crazy with the furniture. Go to sites like Wayfair. You can go to Amazon. What we do also too to make it look really nice and luxury without spending a lot of money, we order wallpaper on Amazon. You know what I'm saying? Get wallpaper for like $20, $25. Put on the wall in a room. Now you make the space look different without breaking the bank. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, as an entrepreneur, your whole goal is how can I be cost effective, right? Where I can still make profit, not spend a lot of money and I'm just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm even thinking back to because we had a guest that, you know, sort of in the Airbnb space as well. And one of the things that, you know, they were talking about was basically is like making sure that, you know, everything adds up and you're getting some profit out of it.
Correct.
You know, so how do you go about, in a way, preventing like bad reviews? Because that's one thing. Like,
yeah.
I can't even lie. I'm renting the space out. I'm looking at the reviews. I'm looking at, you know, I'm trying to see super hosts. Like, how much does those things matter when it comes to the Airbnb space, and how could you prevent or stop somebody from, like, let's say they did have a bad experience, you know, something happened, you know, how could you prevent the, you know, yourself from getting a bad review?
Yeah. So what I'll say, I mean, reviews, you know, is important. You know, reviews could make or break a business, any business. So with Airbnb is like, you want to make sure you provide a good accommodation. And when it comes to reviews, the biggest important thing that you need to have in your business is a good cleaning team in the Airbnb business. If you have a bad cleaner, they could mess up your whole business because you're going to get a bad review, because they'll rate you on the cleanliness, how they was able to check into the unit, the communication they had with the host, the Airbnb host. So you want to make sure you're communicating with your guests. The unit is cleaned. And then also you're just, you know, you're providing good accommodations inside the unit where they got good Wi-Fi signal. They got, you know, iron, things like that inside the unit, right? And you know, okay, you know what, everything's clean. You're going to get a good review. And then sometimes what we do to make sure we get a 5-star review is that when we ask the guests, what you come in town for? They're like, oh, I'm here for anniversary. What I tell my cleaning team to do is, like, my whole mindset when I do anything. So a lot of time when people get into business, they want to penny pitch sometime and be cheap. You want to invest in your business because your business is going to make you more money, right? So what we do is, if a guest tells us that, hey, they're coming for anniversary, I'll tell my cleaning team, hey, go buy like a thank you card or anniversary card, give them some box of chocolates and stuff like that, and put in a card, happy anniversary, right? So when I guest sees it, we get a champagne bottle put inside the unit, they're already wowed. You know what I'm saying? So one thing that we did, we had a guest that stayed with us for a month. They was here for a temporary gig, especially after COVID. You had a lot of workers that was here temporarily, right? Travel workers. And we had a travel worker that came from France to Tampa. He was as an engineer at an engineer site for 30 days. So he stayed with us for a full month. So, all right, we got everything set up. He was there for a full month in our Airbnb unit. And then guess what? The job ended up giving him a 12-month contract. She's like, hey, I'm here for 12 months. Am I able to stay here for 12 months? I said, unfortunately, this unit, we have some other bookings, but I do got another unit we're setting up. I can get you there for 12 months. Wow. So mind you, he's paying us like $5,500 a month. His job is covering the cost. They're paying him for housing expense. So $5,500 a month. The rent is like only $2,500. So we're walking away with $3K in profit off that unit monthly. So what we did before his check-in day, I told my team, yo, we're going to stock the house up with food, snacks. He had kids with him, his wife. Get him a champagne bottle, get a bottle of Bel Air, put it in the unit. Yeah. He got in. He's smiling. He happy. You know what I'm saying? But guess what? I already know I'm going to get a good review. And he's going to come back again, just like he did for the full 12 months. So I'm making like, let's say 3,000 times 12. That's like $36,000 in profit off of one guest for the whole year. Right. So that's what we do to make sure we get 5-star reviews, because it reviews of everything. And in that way, you put yourself in position to become super host on Airbnb. And when you become super host on Airbnb, just like you mentioned, people are looking for the super host status, the book. And it puts you on top of the algorithm on the search field. So that's what you want, to be on top of the algorithm. But then I'm going to tell you this. You do got some guests. If you don't meet certain accommodations, they'll give you a bad review. Like, you can have everything clean, everything set up, and you're like, yo, well, you didn't let me check in early. right? They feel some type of way. It's like, well, I can't let you check in early because the cleaning team, we had another guest checked out. They can't get it cleaned in time. So, but they'll leave you a bad review. And Airbnb calls that retaliation. So now what they put into place is that you are able to literally get that review removed. It had to happen to us. Like a guest left us a bad review because we didn't do a certain accommodation. We didn't accommodate them having a late checkout. And they put that in the chat. Well, all right, well, you didn't let us check out late, right? I'm gonna leave you a bad review because of it, right? And now when we call Airbnb could go into the messages, and now they can see that they retaliated, and Airbnb will remove that review. You do got some guests that do that, right? And that's what we do to kind of get these bad reviews off. Where guests do, retaliation.
Wow. Now, I'm glad you broke it down because I'm really one of those people. Like, I'm going through those reviews. I'm looking, and it could be all positive. I'm looking for the first negative one, and I'm like, nah, never mind. So that's a lot of game. But definitely, like, I wanted to get back into the taxes, because you was giving a lot of game right there. So I want to know your opinion on how do you feel about, Donald Trump. Do you feel like he's doing something illegal, or do you feel like he's just smarter than the average person when it comes to taxes?
Yeah, I would say in order for you to win a game of taxes, you have to have the right team for yourself and your family to win at the highest level. And it's a game, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like any kind of game. If you're trying to play spades, if you're trying to play basketball, if you're trying to play anything, right, you're not going to be able to win the game if you don't know how to play the game. So he just knows how to play the game at a high level. And yeah, what he does is it's within the tax code. So one of the things that helps him the most, or one of the things that really helps him, is that he fits that criteria, right? He is a business owner. He does have real estate, right? I talked about the cost segregation and what you could do with that, even going on the Airbnb side, right? When it comes to rental income, there's the Augusta strategy. I could break all that down, but those are different things that you could do. But then another thing that he did that his team was able to find out is that one of his ex-wives, she passed away. So what he did, he buried her at one of his golf courses. You already know where I'm going with this. He buried her at one of his golf courses. Now it qualifies because it's in New Jersey. It qualifies as a cemetery. He's not paying property taxes, state taxes. He's not paying sales tax. It's gone, right? So it's a tax loophole. Right, but because he has the right people on his team to figure that out and be able to have that foresight, that's what he did, right? And he's when it comes to being a business person, he's probably one of the coldest. I'm not saying in a good way, but he's just like, it's no emotions behind it, right? It's just like, yo, how can I go ahead and pay the least of money as possible on taxes? So that's how he does those different things to be able to save money on taxes. Another thing with real estate is the 1031 exchange, right? So 1031 exchange, what allows you to do, that's if you're selling the property, right? So let's say you go ahead and buy a property, and then you sell the property. Guess what you have to pay? You have to pay capital gains tax. Capital gains tax, right? That could be 20%, right? So if you sell something for $1 million, if you have a gain of $100,000, that's $20,000 in taxes that you got to pay, right? That's too much tax. All right. So what do the wealthy do? The wealthy they go ahead and do what's called a 1031 exchange, where they go ahead and sell the property, right? And they reinvest that income into another property that is similar, like what's called like a like kind exchange, and they go ahead and reinvest it into that property, and now they're able to defer the tax. So the taxes doesn't go away. They defer it, but guess what? They defer, and then they die. Right? And they pass it on.
How many times can you defer the taxes when you're doing 1031 exchange? Like,
as long as you want.
So like year after year until
you can keep deferring it. Yeah. Until you go ahead and don't do the 1031 exchange. And the reason why, you got to think about it, like, they want you to invest in property, right? So let's say you go ahead and start off with like a single family home. You have a gain on that home. Now you go ahead and get a duplex or a fourplex. Then you go ahead and get a commercial property, right? So they want you it helps you be able to, they basically want to incentivize people to be able to go ahead and invest into real estate, because it's going to be able to help the government be able to do what they need to do. And then even going to when it comes to the Augusta rule, one of the strategies is like the Augusta strategy, right? Which is basically, it's based off of Augusta, Georgia. And in Georgia, they have the Masters Golf Tournament. So one of the things that you're able to do is you're able to rent out a space for up to 14 years during the year and not have to pay taxes on it, right? So the same thing. So going back to Eugene's example with that one tenant, that one that one guest, let's say hypothetically speaking, that was the only guest you had for the year, right? They used the property for 12 days, right? You could do up to 14 days out of the year. They used his property for 12 days during the year. He gets $3,000. That's $36,000. 12 times 3, $36,000 of tax-free income.
Wait, so hold on. So a crazy question just came to mind. So now, let's say, for example, you're regular family owner, I said family owner, regular family, you have your homeowner as well. You got, let's say 2 units in the house, right? One of the units you live in, another unit you actually rent out for Airbnb or short-term rental. Are you able to benefit off the Augusta rule when it comes to having the Airbnb units and having guests coming in and save on taxes? Is that a method?
1,000%. Yeah.
And how much can like a person save like if they didn't know this kind of rule? Like,
so
how much can you save on something like that?
So you could do let's say you do it for up to 14 times out of the year. Yeah. And let's say, for instance, let's say maybe you charge $2,000 per day. So just to give you an example, like $2,000 per day for someone to rent out that unit. That could be $28,000 for the year, tax free. Yeah, if it's under the 14 days. Yeah. And then, you don't have to pay taxes on. Now, if it's over the 14 days, that's when it kicks in. So if you're down on day 15, all of it's taxable. But if you're within 14 days or less, then it's tax free.
Have you ever seen somebody get like audited before?
I've seen people get audited, but not necessarily for that strategy. But what can get you audited is documentation. So documentation is key. Like, you got to make sure the document's on point. So, and this is what a lot of people don't talk about. When it comes to the Augusta rule, you do have to have the right documentation in place. So essentially what you're saying when you're doing that kind of strategy is you're saying that you want to think about it like a separate type of transaction. So either, let's say, for instance, you want to do it for your business, okay? Yeah. So instead of you going out and renting a space like on PeerSpace or going on VRBO or Airbnb to be able to rent out that space, then you're doing it for yourself, right? And in that kind of situation, let's say you were to do it on a PeerSpace or Airbnb, it'll be a separate transaction. So you're going to have an agreement. So you want to have an agreement. You want to make sure that you have a reasonable rate. So, you can't just say, hey, a day rate for me is $10,000, right? It needs to make sense for where you live at. So you want to look at other comparable units. Maybe it's PeerSpace, maybe it's Airbnb, VRBO, whatever the different platforms, to be able to see what the comparables are. You want to have that documented. So you want to have a lease agreement between you, the homeowner, and the business owner. So there has to be some kind of transaction in place. The money has to come from one account to another account. So It needs to come from the business account to the personal account. So that needs to be recorded and documented. So there's different things that you need to make sure that you're documenting to show that it's actually legitimately for business. So a legitimate reason could be having a board of director meetings, right? And you don't have to necessarily have 5-10 people. It could just be me, myself, and I, right? And you're going ahead and documenting that, right? You could do that up to 14 times during the year. Maybe if you're just starting out, maybe you could do it once a year, maybe you could do it once a quarter. So you don't have to use all the 14 days, but then that's how you want to make sure you're doing this. Documentation is going to be key in order to do it.
All right. So now I know this is a question right here that I feel like it might crush a lot of people's feelings, because like one of the things that I see a lot of times is people go out and they just start a whole bunch of different LLCs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're thinking like, all right, cool, you'll be able to save money on taxes. Like, but what's the real deal behind it? Is it like starting an LLC? Is it starting a corporation? Like, and do you need multiple LLCs, when it comes to saving money on taxes as a business owner?
Yeah.
Like, what's the real deal?
Yeah. So the real deal is this. So when it comes to it, so we talked about the requirement to be a business. You have to be in the pursuit of profit. So you don't even need an LLC and an EIN to be able to be considered a business. Yeah.
So you can operate as a sole prop.
Sole proprietorship.
Operating as business.
Yeah. I don't recommend doing that. Yeah. I'm not recommending doing that. But I'm also saying it because I know there's people out there scared to write things off because they don't have an LLC or EIN yet.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But you could actually be a sole prop, do it under your social security number. Terrible idea. because then people could find out where you live and get your personal information. So you want to keep that separation. But when it comes to it, this is another thing that a lot of people don't realize. Even people who are in the tax profession don't even understand this concept of legal entity versus tax entity. So you have a legal entity that's going to be that's going to define your legal protection that you have. So you have a sole proprietorship, doesn't give you any legal protection. You have an LLC, limited liability company, which means it limits your liability. So if someone's trying to come sue your business, if you make sure you are maintaining what's called the corporate veil, making sure that your business and personal separated, you have separate business bank accounts, there's no commingling of the funds is what they say, and having the right documentation in place, they can't come after your personal assets like your house, your car, your all these different things, as long as you maintain that. So that's the LLC. That's the benefit of having the LLC. Then you have a partnership, right? That's when you're in business with more than one person. And then you have a corporation, right? And that's going to be another legal entity, right? And similar to the LLC where it gives you that protection. Then you have what's called a tax entity. That's actually how you're going to be taxed. So you got a sole proprietorship. You could be taxed as a sole proprietorship, a partnership, an S corp, and a C corp, right? But this is the thing with if you're just a sole proprietorship, you're paying what's called self-employment tax, which is 15.3%. All right. So basically, like, let's say you work a 9 to 5, you and your employer are paying that tax, right? So you're paying Social Security, Medicare. So you're paying as an employee 7.65%. Your employer is paying 7.65%. But now as a business owner, you are both the employee and the employer. So now you're paying 15.3%. All right, which is okay if you're starting off, but once you start making a lot more money, so I generally recommend you want to consider at least at 40,000, really 50,000 is going to be that sweet spot when you really want to consider switching over to what's called an S corporation, because that's what's going to save you on that self-employment tax. So to give you an example, let's say you make $100,000 in your business and that's the profit, you pay 15.3% of that, that's 15,300. Instead, what you can do is you can go ahead and get that, switch over to an S corporation. Then you're going to have to be considered, then you're going to have to pay yourself a salary, right? So let's say you do 50% on the salary. Now, instead of paying 15.3, now you're paying like $7,000 on taxes, right? So that's like literally $7,000 savings just by switching over from a sole proprietorship to an S corporation, right? So in order to do that, there's different tax forms you have to go ahead and fill out. You got form 2553 to go ahead and file that. You want to do that within the first 75 days of the year, so March 15th, or you could do what's called a late S election. If you work with someone, they can go ahead and help you be able to qualify if you happen to miss that deadline. So that's another way to do it. And then when you become an S corporation, then you want to pay yourself a salary, and then you want to also, you're going to have to fill out a different tax form called 1120S. So that's the key. But going back to that question, no, you don't have to create multiple LLCs. One of the reasons why people create, the reason why you should have different LLCs is the LLC, remember, it doesn't help you save money on taxes. It just gives you that protection. So you're going to have you're going to protect yourself from different kind of risks. So let's say you have two different types of businesses. So let's say I have an accounting firm. Let's say I have Airbnb, right? I need to have a separate LLC for those two to minimize my risk in each of those businesses. So both those businesses have different risks, right? In the Airbnb, someone could slip and fall, try to come after me. In the tax business, they could try to say malpractice or whatever the case, whatever the different risks could be in that category. So you want to have it separate. I know some people do it for business funding and stuff like that, but from a tax perspective, it's not really doesn't do anything for tax, but from a legal perspective, that's the reason why you want to have different LLCs or corporation. But corporation is a little bit more. I wouldn't recommend a corporation generally unless you want to have investors. Like if you think about Shark Tank, for instance, you want to have investors in your business, or you're doing like maybe $3 million in profit, then it might benefit you because it does have a flat tax rate on there. But yeah, that's gonna be how it works.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's a lot of game. That's a lot of game.
Sure.
I do want to jump into the because right now it's all over social media. You see people talking about write-offs,
yeah,
like all over. And I do want to know, is it that easy to write things off? Like for example, let's say I'm getting married, but I'm a wedding planner. Like I plan weddings, and I decide to post my wedding online and use it as marketing for my business. Could I write off my whole wedding?
Yeah. So I would say generally probably not. So you might be, if you're creative enough and you have enough documents to really show that it meets those 4 requirements. It's for your business. It's regular for people to do that in your industry. It's essential for you to do that, necessary, and it's not lavish or extravagant. So yeah, that to me, I think that's a little bit of a gray area. I would probably say generally no on that. A way that you can possibly do it is like, if you wanted to, you can be able to, some people, what they do for their weddings is they get like flowers, and you could actually donate those flowers to like a nonprofit, and that allows you to be able to get a tax write-off for that. So little things like that, you might be able to kind of finesse and try to do it, but really you want to make sure, like, the biggest thing is, like, there's a saying in the tax code is like, pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered, right? So you can't go, you don't want to go too crazy, because then that's what's going to open you up for audits, right? It's going to open up your audit risk, especially if you're just a sole proprietorship and an LLC putting on a Schedule C, because that's honestly the tax return that they're really looking at. But if now you switch over to an S corporation, right, that actually reduces your audit risk by like 50%, right? It reduces it significantly, just because that shows it's more of a legitimate business. But yeah, you want to, I always say that you want to just make sure it makes sense. And if you could defend it, at the end of the day, you just have to feel comfortable being able to defend it and really showing, hey, it's for your business, trade, or profession. But generally things that are usually more personal, like things that only benefit you, maybe like a haircut, for instance, makeup, those kind of things, or clothing, right? If it's just like, if you're just going out buying clothing without like your logos on it and marketing purposes, then that's going to be harder to be able to argue for. Right. But so, you could, you know what I'm saying, you could shoot your shot, but you want to make sure you have the documentation to really.
So you said that you have to benefit from it somehow, right?
And it has to benefit the business.
It has to benefit the business.
It has to be the business. But I feel I know. I get what you're saying. If you get a wedding and you market it, yeah.
Now so, I got another example though. So let's say nowadays everybody has different communities and things like that. Like even some people that have communities on OnlyFans, but they're teaching game, like it's real game on there. Could somebody write off my whole OnlyFans subscription and
yes.
If I'm learning marketing from it.
No doubt. So yes. So if you're getting the OnlyFans and that's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. But no. If you get an OnlyFans and you're subscribed to OnlyFans contributor that is contributing, providing educational information that's going to help your business, then go ahead and write off the OnlyFans. Go ahead and write off the OF and just go crazy.
What's the dumbest thing that you've seen somebody write off?
The dumbest thing, damn, there's so many different, people try to write off everything. I think probably the most common that I get is really just trying to write off clothing. That's not, like I said, the IRS really is against that. One really, it's kind of crazy, but it was legit. There was a real estate agent who was selling property in Miami, and she was able to write off her yacht because she does luxury real estate, and because her clients need to be able to see the properties from the ocean, right? Because they want oceanfront property. Then she's able to go ahead and actually be able to show that it's for the business, it's regular for a business, it's essential for her to be able to sell the property because they're not going to buy it if they can't see how it looks like on the water, and it's not lavish or extravagant because she's a multimillionaire real estate agent. So those are kind of things that you could be able to write off. Again, you just have to meet the requirements. And then going back to that Grant Cardone example, he wrote off that jet, and he actually got a tax refund that year because the tax write-off was so big. So yeah.
Nah, that's game. I'm glad you broke it down, because now I kind of see it a little bit more clearly, because you go online and everybody's like, this is easy. Like,
write it off.
Writing off chains, writing off designer clothing.
Yeah, like I said, it's one of those things where they're not going to stop you. You could try to write it off, but then you also got to deal with that audit too, right, on the back end, and just have to make sure that you could explain it. So like I said, I take more of the approach like, definitely you want to make sure that you are there's, like I said, 95% of tax codes showing you how to save money on taxes. So like you could pay your kids through the business. That's another thing, right? You could pay them up to $15,000 in 2025 up to the standard deduction. And if they're doing work in your business, you could literally be able to pay them and take it as a tax deduction and not have to pay taxes on it. So, and generally speaking, like you want to start them off like at 7 is generally like a good age, because that's based off a court case. Some people try to do it younger. Not saying it's impossible, but generally speaking, the older it is, the easier it's going to be for you to be able to defend it. But yeah, there's that's usually how it goes. But like I said, things like at least you're already spending money on the vehicles, even the home as well. So if you're a business owner, you work from home, you got what's called the home office deduction that used to be considered an audit risk. It's not an audit risk because especially after COVID, most people are working from their home. So you could be able to write off a percentage of your home. So let's say, with all the allowable expenses that you have, your mortgage interest, your property taxes, your utilities, let's say you have a space within your home for business purposes, like 10% of those expenses can now be taken off as a tax deduction, right? You got the meals, right? So being able to write off meals, if you're having a conversation with someone, you're discussing businesses, or you're meeting someone to be able to look at units for Airbnbs, that's going to be a tax write-off, right? So it's just a matter of like being proactive. I think it's being proactive versus reactive, because there's two different tax seasons. There's tax paying season and there's tax planning season, right? A lot of people during tax season are trying to write off things and trying to figure things out. It's too late. It's too late. It's based off of what happened last year, so you just got to be proactive.
Yeah, that's a lot of game. That's a lot of game.
Sure. And
And I do want to jump back into the Airbnb side, because I was just thinking, I'm like, how could someone that they listen to this right now, they want to jump into Airbnb, how could they avoid like the mistakes in the beginning, like, especially when it comes to finding a property, making sure you get the right location, making sure, you save money when it comes to buying the furniture. And even some people don't even have money. They don't even have money to start it. So it's like a lot of issues that come up when people say they want to start an Airbnb. So how would you like, what's a way that somebody could start a profitable Airbnb as their first Airbnb?
1000%. So, doing stuff like this, watching, information, right? Podcast, getting some information, and doing your due diligence and doing research. So I say that's going to be the very first thing to do. And then as you're doing research, number one thing you want to do is you want to research, and I want to go over these top cities to actually do Airbnb in, right? So look up the top cities to do Airbnb and see if it's within your market. To me, these are the top 5 cities that actually do Airbnb in states. You have Florida. Florida's a great state. Everybody come down to Florida.
Yeah.
The vacation at business is a great state. So Florida's a great market. And the city in Florida is going to be Miami, Florida, Orlando, Tampa, Florida is a great market as well too. Then you have Texas. You have Houston, Dallas, Texas. Those are great markets. And the reason why you want to know these great markets is because you want to know if people want to travel there, right? It's going to be profitable for you. You don't want to go to a market. For example, I had a mentee, a student, she was actually in Nebraska. Like, who have that went to Nebraska? Nobody, right? So I'm like, nah, I don't recommend getting a unit there because no one's really going there like that. And you're not going to be as profitable. So she got a unit in Florida, in Orlando, Florida. So you want to know, okay, if my home market is a great market to do it in, if not, maybe I could tap into a different market. The other market that's going to be good to actually do short-term rental Airbnb in is now they really open back up again is actually New York, right? They have some strict regulations where they stopped it for a minute, but then it opened back up as well too. New York is a great market to do it in because guess what? Everybody and their mama love to travel to New York and Miami, Florida, right? So you look up these top cities, and then also Georgia's a great market. A lot of people travel to Georgia. You got Atlanta, and then the other great market to tap into, which is actually to me on the top 3 list of doing Airbnb, is going to be Nashville, Tennessee, right? Because they have a lot of music festivals there, so a lot of people travel there not just for vacation, but for the music festival, also for work. So Nashville, Tennessee is a great market. So you want to see, is these cities I'm looking to do Airbnb in a great city to do it in? If it is, okay, now it's a market I should tap into. All right. So once you got that checked off, the next thing you want to do is like, all right, well, what is my estimated cost to secure my first unit? Usually it's anywhere between 10 to 15,000. So let's say that person don't got no cash. Well, they got the information, they got the game, right? They learn the game on this. Now, all right, well, how can I execute? They can leverage the bank money. So one of the things that I always teach is, all right, well, let's go to the banks. Number one, set up your LLC, right? Get your EIN number, so that way you could go ahead and get business credit and business funding. So obviously you got to have a certain credit score, 680 credit score and above, a good credit profile, right? Having multiple credit cards on your credit reporting, at least 5 trade lines on your credit reporting, and then you could get up to 50K in funding. I always recommend get 50K minimum, so that way you got enough to get your first unit and you got money for reserve. Because as an entrepreneur, let's be real, it's not always going to be up, right? It's like a roller coaster. You got some money, you up, and guess what? It goes down. But when it goes down, go back up again. So you got to think about those rainy days. So I always tell my mentees and students, have some reserve money on the side. So to me, not to me, but these are the best 3 credit cards to go to actually get business credit from. Number 1 is going to be Chase Bank. They'll go up to 50K in a business credit card. And the reason why I'm going to these banks right here, because they give you 0% interest, right? So if you have 0% interest for 12 months, that's more than enough time to flip the money, right? And that's free money. The second bank is going to be Truist Bank. They run the same thing. They'll go up to $25,000, 0% interest for 12 months, right? And then third one is going to be US Bank, right? That I recommend because it's going to give you high limit credit cards. So now that's well over 50K in funding. Now you got enough to go ahead and get your first unit to cover the first month and last month deposit, and then you got some money to get your furniture as well. And typically an average cost to get a unit, if it's like a 2 or 3 bedroom, if it's an apartment or it's a house, typically is like $2,500 or $3,000. So if they want first and last month, that's $6,000. To get the furniture, let's say that's $5,000, that's $11,000 all in costs. Let's say that profit would generate you anywhere between 50 to 60K in revenue a year, 50 to 60 or 70K. You in a positive for the year in that particular Airbnb unit. Now watch this. Let's say that landlord, they want cash, right? Or they say, you know what, I want you to wire me the money in cash. Now we show how to take the cash off the credit cards, right? So that's you got to use your own money. We're going to leverage the bank money, because what I want you to think about, a lot of times some people may be afraid to use debt. Like, no, I want to do everything cash. And that's the wrong mindset. You have good debt and bad debt. You see, most people are afraid to use funding because the very first thing they think about is, you know what, man, I got this business credit card. I'm probably going to get me some designers, right? I'm going to go to the Louis store, right? I'm going to go out. I'm going to go take me a vacation to go to Dubai. Everybody going to Dubai. I'm going to take a vacation to Dubai. But that's a personal investment you use. You're not going to get a return on that. That's a bad investment. That is bad debt. But then you got good debt. Good debt is money you invest into to make more money. Investing into knowledge, that's good debt. And you got to think about these big corporations. You got Apple. Apple's a $1 trillion company, but they still invest into debt, right? They still have debt. Amazon, which I kind of hate Amazon because my wife ordered from there all the time. But I'm like, yo, I got beef with Jeff Bezos, but we'll talk about that later. But Amazon is a $1 trillion company, and they still got debt. But it's good debt, right? Because they invested into a business. So the same thing with Airbnb. Now we show people how to take the cash off the card, right? Where you could go to a site called iPlastic, which is one site, right? Where basically you could register with them, set up a profile, link that credit card with it, and then you could either send the wire, if the landlord want a wire, send it directly from the credit card to the landlord, and will transfer as cash. Or here's another play, you could send it to yourself, right? With the cash could deposit in your business bank account off that credit card. And one of the benefits from doing that, instead of doing a cash advance, is because you're still going to have that 0% interest. If you do a cash advance, you're going to get hit with a high interest rate, right? So this is what we teach, to be able to take the cash off the card. If you need to pay the landlord first month, last month, if they want a money order or if they want a wire, that's how you be able to do it without using your own money, right? And then the third step is going to be setting it up, right? Obviously furnishing it, which you go to the different sites we talked about earlier, Wayfair, Amazon, Facebook Marketplace, get it furnished, you set a budget, and then you list it. One of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of people make is they only think about Airbnb. You got multiple platforms. You got Booking.com, you got TripAdvisor, you got Vrbo, you got Airbnb, obviously. But here's another thing most people know about. You have corporate housing websites where you have corporations and companies looking for places to stay to have their employees go to. So one of the sites that we use is nationalcorporatehousing.com, right? That's one site that we use. And then also even insurance companies. Let's say in Florida, we get hit with hurricane. But that doesn't mean don't come to Florida, though. You know what I'm saying? But we get hit with hurricane. So let's say somebody's displaced, right? They're like, all right, they got a house. The house got flooded. The insurance company's going to cover it. They got to do all the repairs, but the family got to stay somewhere else. Now you partner with these different websites. One website is going to be called ALE Solutions, where you can set up your house on there, your Airbnb on there, and a family need a place to stay. And you want $6,000 a month for a client to stay there or a family to stay there. You could negotiate with the insurance company. You have an adjuster, and they will cut you a check. So let's say a guest need to stay there for 3 months, right, till the house get finished getting fixed. That's 3 months of $6,000 you could get from an insurance company paying you. That's $18,000 up front you could get from an insurance company. So one of the things that we do is we don't just focus on Airbnb. We kind of list our units on different websites, right? One of the things my mentees did, my students did, was basically, he's in the military. He just got deployed to Japan. So he's going to be in Japan for a year. And he has a condo in DC. And he's like, hey, well, I want to list it for Airbnb and make money on it while I'm in Japan. So he's going to be making money in the military while he's there. And then he's going to be making money here at the same time, right? So all right, cool. Well, we listed on Furnish Finders. He had a whole bunch of people, employees, people that was doing internships in DC, wanted to stay with his property months at a time. So literally staying for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, right? Because we didn't just list on Airbnb. We listed on Furnish Finders, where you have travel workers look for places to stay, and then travel nurses. So if you understand, okay, well, if I do this, and I know if I list on these different platforms, I'm going to have someone pay me the price that I want for my unit, right? So that way you know that you're going to be profitable. And then also have your systems. You know, one of the things that you do need is a cleaning team. So you could go to turno.com to find a cleaner to clean your unit. You can find a cleaner nationwide going to turno.com and look at their reviews to see if they're doing good cleans. If they have a 3-star review, don't hire them to clean your unit. You know what I'm saying? Get a 5-star review, hire them to clean your unit, test them out. And then you want to have a handyman team. You could use TaskRabbit to find handymans to maybe mount the TVs, anything breaks inside the unit, they can set it up for you, the small things. And then also, one of the things that we do is once you get the hang of it, we create something called a virtual desk, right? Kind of think about a hotel. The registration desk is open when? 24/7. So what we do is do the same thing. So we got a team of VAs where we hire from Upwork, and now they do the guest communication. They schedule the cleans, right? If anything breaks or the guests have a question, they're doing all of that. Right, so that way, you know, once you learn get the hang of the business, you could teach them how to do it. They could go ahead and do the day-to-day operations while you're overseeing the business and focusing on growing the business. That makes sense, right? So, you know, you want to have systems. The systems stand for save yourself time, energy, and money. Because a lot of times when people get into business, they want to do everything themselves. You just create another job for yourself. You're just self-employed. The name of the game is to be entrepreneur. And how can I be owner, where I could literally oversee everything and still work on the business, but I don't have to always work in the business. Right, so that's kind of the steps that we take and approach with growing and scaling the Airbnb business.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I did want to kind of ask you too about the marketing side of Airbnb, because you know when you go on the site, not just Airbnb but any short-term rental website, you go on the site, first thing you know most people are looking at is the pictures. Yeah. So photography, like how do you get those, you know, the right angles? Do you hire a photographer? Yeah. Do you take them yourself?
Yeah. So you hire a photographer. You know, a lot of times when people first get started, they use their cell phone and take pictures. Like, all right, I'm gonna take a picture and go ahead and list it on Airbnb, but you don't have good quality on it. And now Airbnb is very, very big on the pictures as well too, because they want to put top quality on the top of it as well. So you want to make sure you take professional photos of the unit, and in that way, that real estate photographer, they know how to take the angles, they can edit the photos and put it on Airbnb. And if the pictures are really, really good, that will also help boost you on top of the algorithm. Because right now, Airbnb is really focused on quality, right? That's why I say you got to be professional. Don't think that you just going to come to the game, you get a couple tips and tricks, and you're going to kill it. Yeah. That ain't going to happen, right? Because there's a lot of other people on Airbnb. Not saying you can make money, because looking at the stats, Airbnb right now is valued at $70 billion. Right, so a lot of time when people see all the stuff that's going on in the news with the regulations in the cities, Airbnb ain't going nowhere, right? Because guess what? If Airbnb is valued at $70 billion, what do you think is going on? You think the government want them to go away? The IRS? They're paying taxes, right? So they're going to be here for a long term. So they're making a lot of money, and Airbnb host is making a lot of money. Yeah. But then again, you got to be professional, right? So definitely you want to get a real estate photographer to take the photos. You want to get a cleaning team. You want to create systems. Another thing that we do is we have self check-in for our guests. We put smart locks on the unit, right? Where they get a unique code. The guests could check themselves in. So if they're checking in at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, they could check in whenever. I could be asleep, and I'm getting sleep money because I have everything automated, right? So that's what we do. Like, I don't even want to meet my guests.
Yeah, you know, I said the same thing. I do not want to meet my guests. I always only looking for self check-ins. I'm like, nah, I do not want to meet the guests.
Yeah. You know,
for real. So you did mention ups and downs when it comes to the Airbnb market. So how do you make money during a slow season?
Yeah, so you know what we do is we kind of market differently. So we kind of market for long-term stays. So typically, what we put in the description, if it's listed on Airbnb, is that we put in the description, if you stay for 30 days or more, we'll give you a discount. Because what we want to do, because a lot of times, you know, you could have a lot of check-ins. Let's say 3-day stays, 2-day stays. you have a lot of turnover. And then also, if you get some 3-day stays and it's not filled up for the whole month, you got some days that's empty for the month. So what we try to do during slow season, typically for Airbnb, the slow season is typically fall when kids go back to school. So like August to about October. And then typically what we do is we push it for long-term stays where we could get that travel worker or travel nurse, or we get someone looking to stay 30 days at a time. We give them a discount, right? It's a win for them and it's a win for us because we're filling up the calendar. So that's one of the things that we do when it's slow season. The other thing that we do as well too is that we list on different websites, and then we partner with different companies. So right now, like we had a company who worked for engineering company who's actually working for an electric company in Tampa, Florida, who worked for Tico. And, you know, most of the times nowadays, some employers, when they're sending 2 employees together or multiple employees, they don't want to put them in just one hotel room, right? They're like, all right, well, we want to separate it, but it could cost more money. So to be cost effective, sometimes they'll get one house. So typically we try to focus our marketing on travel workers during that slow period of time because we know that, hey, they're going to pay the price that we want and they'll accommodate them. And there's a win for us doing slow season. So it's typically that's what we do. You can also market, you know, typically online, but typically we don't do that. We just leverage the different websites that's out there that we can market to, like companies and travel workers during that slow period.
Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of games just dropping on this one episode, and I'm pretty sure, like we probably like an hour in now, bro. How much time we been in so far?
Again, too much game, too much sauce.
Yeah, it's a lot of game. It's definitely been a lot of game. I just got a few, like I got one more tax question. So basically it's like how would you like for college students, like how would you advise them to set themselves up so they don't become that they don't just become a taxpayer, but they're actually saving on taxes, like saving money on taxes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's really educating them and letting them know that, again, the tax code favors business owners and entrepreneurs. So generally speaking, if you're going to go to college and you're going to school, you're probably going to work a 9 to 5. You're going to get a W-2. But what they don't tell you is that when it comes to that, let's say, for instance, you could make $200,000 at your W-2 job, and the average person is going to pay like $42,000 in federal income taxes. If you get into real estate and make $40,000 a month, you could pay 0 taxes because that's the way the tax code is, right? So it's not anything to be upset about, but just understanding. And I would let them know that, hey, number one, you want to at least get into business. And honestly, this is probably the greatest time to get into business, right? It's never been easier to be able to get into business. Like, we can literally take our phones now and start a business, right? You can create a podcast. You can go on social media. Like, and there's even more. Like, a lot of people are talking about what's going on in the world. Like 80, think about this, 80% of the money supply was created in the last 5 years. So like all this money was created and generated. So it's the best time. So I would encourage them to get into real estate. I would encourage them to invest and educate themselves, understanding that the different tax strategies that are out there when you go ahead and start getting into becoming a business owner, investor, entrepreneurship. Because not only is it going to save you money on taxes, honestly, tax is just one thing, but it's also being able to help you build wealth, right? Being able to do these things, because now you have no ceiling when it comes to that. But let's say there's someone who's like completely 100%. I want to talk to the people who are like 100% anti-business, entrepreneurship, if they're scared. You could, if you're just a W-2 employee, you want to understand that being able to utilize things like maxing out your retirement. So when you work, when you go ahead and get your job, there is what's called like a 401k. You can go ahead and contribute to that 401k, and it's going to give you a tax deduction during the year. You can go ahead and if you become a homeowner, then they're going to give you some different tax breaks on that. So you can be able to write off your mortgage interest. You're able to write off your property taxes. You're able to write off different things as well. And those are going to be like some of the main ways. And then obviously taking advantage of what's called itemized deductions. So, making sure that you're recording if you qualify for it. It's becoming harder to qualify for because they increase the rate. But if you go ahead and you can write off things like medical expenses up to a certain percentage, you could be able to write off like the interest, like I mentioned, taxes that you pay during the year, charitable contributions as well can help you save money on taxes. And you got like casualty losses that happen, but that's more of like an unfortunate type of situation. So I would just tell them the biggest thing, honestly, the cheat code is just find someone who is at where you're at and like invest in them, pay whatever they charge, and that's like the cheat code. Like that's like if I were to do it over again, I would like as quickly as possible try to find a mentor, try to find someone that's doing what I want to do and invest in them and use that as the pathway. And it doesn't have to take you 4-6 years like college does, right? It's just literally it's out there. So I would just say those are things I would let them know.
All right. Now this is really a good one. And before we close up, I think you did mention in the beginning you wanted to say like the 10 commandments of what.
Yeah, I got the 10 tax commandments. So I want to wrap up here with you all. Rap, R-A-P. So growing up, I used to want to be a rapper too. So I came up with the song called the 10 Tax Commandments, inspired by Biggie's 10 Crack Commandments. So if you're listening, that's the beat. So check this out. I've been in the game for years. It made me an animal. There's rules to this code. I wrote me a manual, a step-by-step blueprint for you to get your game off track, the feds off your back. Rule number uno, let the IRS know how much dough you hold, because you know evasion breeds penalty, especially if that prep messed up. Watch your tax go up. Number 2, document expenses you could prove. Don't you know them boys treat lying like violence? Take it from your highness. I done see mad cats and chips cut for their schemes and tricks. Number 3, go form an LLC. A lawyer set that up, properly draft up, deed and the state up. Yep, for them big bucks. They'll get that paperwork clean up. Word up. Number 4, I know you heard this before. Always rely on your CPA guy. Number 5, never tax prep where you rest at. I don't care if they do it free, tell them leave. Number 6, that tax advance credit, debt it. They think they're doing you a favor, no, forget it. 7, this rule is so underrated. Keep your personal and business completely separated. Business and blood don't mix like politics with no tricks. Find your business serious risk. Number 8, know the date your taxes due. If you miss the deadline, they'll be coming for you. Number 9 should have been number 1 to me. If you start a business, let's say wait for hobbies. If they think it's a hobby, they ain't trying to listen. You'll be stressing in the kitchen when them letters start hitting. Number 10, a strong word corporation, strictly for bizmen, not for freshmen. If you ain't got the taxes, then say hell no, because they ain't gonna want your money rain, sleet, hell, snow. Yo, follow these rules. You have mad bread to break up. If not, 24 years on the wake up. Flow hit your temple. Watch your friends shake up. Caretaker, did you make up? When you pass, my bad. I hope you rake up a lot of cash with beachfront in Jamaica with the Michelin star. Chef the hooker steak up. Gotta go. More returns to make up. A word up, Tax King.
That's a mic drop.
Appreciate y'all.
That definitely is a mic drop, and that was giving some Biggie too.
Yeah,
I did hear it in
saying?
there. I definitely did hear it in there. But nah, this was a really good one. Just tell them what y'all got going on, because I'm pretty sure like they gonna want to tap in with y'all. This is crazy.
Yeah, so most definitely. So if they want to tap in with us, I mean, you can definitely follow us on Instagram, social media, all platforms. On Instagram at Miss Eugene06, on IG, Facebook, EugeneFanFan.com. And then also we actually do a weekly free workshop. So it's actually called the Passive Income Blueprint Class.com. Then we do a weekly where we give you the game on passive income and then also tax-free living with Michel.
Yes, sir. Yeah, hit me up. Instagram as well, at Michel, MICHELVALBRUN. Go ahead and tap in with me on there to be able to get more game on how to be able to live tax-free and build wealth.
Yeah. This was game.
This was definitely game, y'all. So honestly, I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in. You guys made it to end, and if you really want to tap in and learn this Airbnb game and also learn how to save some money on taxes, this is also essential information. So go ahead and just tap in with them. And also don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. So peace.